Well, welcome to Testable Faith. I'm Hugh Ross, the founder of Reasons to Believe, and I'm joined today by David Block's better half, Liz Block. And Liz, we just heard from David his story of how he came to faith in Jesus Christ, and you have a similar background to his. So first start off by telling us what it was like when you were growing up. What was the spiritual context?
Okay, so when I was growing up, we were a close-knit Jewish family of 5 children. We lived in, unlike David, who lived in a city, we lived in a more rural setting in South Africa. There were a lot of Jewish families, and we met together with all the...
Now, was it an Orthodox Jewish upbringing?
Not really. We did have a rabbi in the small town when I was very young, and afterwards my parents changed to Reform Judaism. When I had to go to boarding school in high school in a nearby city, and I chose to go to the Reform synagogue, although there was the option to go to Orthodox. But I preferred to go to Reform at the time because the services were mostly in English as opposed to Hebrew. And yeah, so we had a very strong Jewish identity, and I was very proud of being Jewish. And as a family, we celebrated the main feasts, the Yom Kippur, Rosh Hashanah, Pesach. So we were all very aware of our Jewish background. Yeah.
And so how did you make the transition to recognizing that there was more to Judaism than your Reform background?
Well, we had people who shared Christianity with my parents over the years.
So your parents had Christian friends?
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
yes. Our parents, my father passed away when I was very young, and that had quite an impact on me as well as my siblings. My mother was left a widow at 43 with 5 children.
Wow.
So I think one of the impacts was that I became really interested in religion, in various religions. So from the time of 9 years old, I started reading everything I could on Buddhism, on Spiritism, on journeys out of the body. I used to tell my teachers fortunes with tarot cards, and so I was really interested. I wasn't all that interested in Christianity because I thought that anybody who wasn't Jewish was a Christian.
And so what got you past the guru concept?
So when I was in the last 2 years of high school, I started dating a young man who was a Christian. He was very backslidden. Otherwise he couldn't have been dating me. And he used to tell me of the time that he served the Lord, and I didn't understand why he couldn't go to church when he was dating me. He just didn't want to go near anymore. But in the second year that we were dating, he came back to the Lord. And suddenly Jesus was first in his life and not me. So I was really angry about that. But I did recognize the change in him, and it was remarkable.
So it was a positive change.
Very positive change in so many ways in his life. So that opened me up a little bit more to the concept of Jesus. He gave me a small Gideon Bible that he had got in high school. And he had underlined in this Bible, which I thought was quite horrific. As Jews, if you drop the scriptures, you pick them up and kiss them. And here was somebody defacing a Bible. However, every week, he was living in a different town at that stage, and every week we used to talk on the phone and argue about the Lord and what he was telling me, and I would come back from an argument like that and lie on my bed, really upset, knowing this was the end, and would open that Bible, and there underlined would be what we had argued about. So this was kind of supernatural, and I liked that. So I started getting more and more open, but then at the end of high school, I realized we were not suited, and he was now following this path. So I went to where he was living, and we broke the relationship. But I continued to go to church with him, and I sang along. It was a lovely, lovely church, but every time they said Jesus, I just said God, and then would come out of a service and argue with him, and he would say to me, "Can't you speak to my pastor and discuss these matters?" And I would say, "No, he's probably as stupid as you are." I mean, I really didn't want to be so nasty, but I really thought I knew a lot. I was then going on 18. I had been studying various scriptures and holy books from the time I was 9 years old. So I really thought I did know everything. And so on the last night that I was staying with him, we went to a prayer meeting. And I thought, okay, I'm going to now make a long list of all the nonsense they speak, and just so that I can sort him out before I go. And as I was sitting there with my pen ready to write down, I just, it was like the Holy Spirit changed my brain. And I simply believed what they were saying. I had nothing to write. So when that meeting was over, I told the pastor, and he prayed with me. And then I went back to the city where I was living at that stage and started university. And I thought I was a Christian. But I still believed that all ways got to God, but I would follow Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
And I started going to a church. I actually went to a load of places because I didn't know the difference. I went to Mormon church. I went to religious science. I went all over. When I saw church, I went there and to see what it's about. But I started going to a church, and one day they had a Jewish believer come and speak at the church. He was an old man, and I don't remember what he said, except for one thing. He said, Jesus is the only way. And I was furious. I got up from church, from my seat, and I got onto my little motorbike and went home, lay on my bed, and I said to the Lord, I will never accept that. That is, I know too much. That is absolutely impossible to fathom, So as I was lying there, I suddenly, I was not asleep, I was awake, and I suddenly felt that there were all these people behind me. And I saw this incredibly white figure come into my view, bright, shiny. I'd never read Revelation or the general scriptures. I hadn't read it all, and I pointed to show them this figure, and I knew it was Jesus, and he pointed to himself, and I knew.
Well, thank you, Liz. It's
Thank
been a real
you.
pleasure just talking to you here. And hey, if you want to hear more about Liz and David Block, go to reasons.org, and you can search under their names. Thank you.